What is going on, guys? My name is Yasin, and in case you're new to this channel, this is my pro tip series where every week or every 2 weeks I try to show you guys 5 tips in order to improve your gameplay, increase your win rate, decrease the amount of misplays that you do, and also understand the game rulings a bit better. So in case you actually like videos like these, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button because that would seriously motivate me a lot to keep making videos like these. And now let's jump into tip number 1. Alright, so did you actually know that Shadow Schism could play around Ghost Belle or Ghost Ogre depending on which card scares you the most? Let's just start with Ghost Belle. In case you want to play around Ghost Belle, well, you shouldn't actually flip Shadow Schism and use the effect right away. And the reason why you shouldn't do that is because when a card is getting its activation negated, it is sent to the graveyard by game mechanics. However, when an effect is getting, when a card is getting its effect negated, well, it won't be sent to the graveyard. The best way to prove this is by actually showing you right now what is actually going to happen. So I preemptively flipped the Shadow Schism, and then on the resolution, or a bit later on in the main phase, I used the effect of Schism to fuse by banishing the materials from the graveyard because it is not a cost, meaning that Ghost Belle can affect that, and Ghost Belle either negates the activation of a card or effect. If it was negating the activation of Schism, so when I flip the card preemptively and I use the effect, well, then it gets sent to the graveyard. But now I'm not doing that. Even though I am losing to Ghost Ogre, I am not losing too much to Ghost Belle because at least I'm keeping Schism on the field. I'm going to show you now what happens when the exact opposite happens. What happens when the exact opposite happens? Way to confuse people, Yasin. Nice job. Anyways, now we're going to flip Schism and use the effect in the exact same kind of chain link. My opponent is going to Ghost Belle me, and that's it. That's all. This Schism is just sent to the graveyard. Really, really rip, honestly. I really would like to keep the Schism and then fuse like 10 billion times with it. Get so much card advantage, but the reason why I did that was because I was scared of Ghost Ogre. So again, if you are scared of Ghost Ogre, do this, and if you're scared of Ghost Belle, do what I did in replay number 1. But anyways, that's it for the tip number 1. Let's get into tip number 2. Alright, tip number 2, and did you know that Zeus actually had a second effect? Most people don't, and just in case your opponent tries to use a card that would destroy a card you control, either by battle or by card effect, well, you can use it and take full advantage of Zeus's secondary effect in order to attach any card from your deck or your extra deck to it. And depending on which kind of deck you're playing, it could actually have a lot of value. So for example, if you play cards like Wind Pegasus, Adagnister, or Elder Entity Entis, or even in the Zodiac deck, if you play something like Zodiac Combo, well, you can actually go +1 or make your opponent go -1 by not only gaining a material that would have an effect, but also getting one step closer to using the effect again, because let's just say you only had one material prior, well, you could actually attach a second one, which could be really nice, and it says any card, so it's almost a way to just foolish for anything in your deck. It's really nice. Even in a deck like Orchest, this could have a lot of value. So now my opponent obviously is going to go Ring of Destruction on Ram, which is just a joke. Just hypothetically speaking, trying to set this combo up, whatever. At this point, the Thorblade, draw 1. I really wanted to show that even in Burning Abyss, you could attach Graph, Seer, Skarm, Farfa, anything to Zeus, and it would become 10 billion times scarier, and you can even crash your own monsters on your opponents, which would still be treated as being destroyed by battle in order to attach anything to Zeus. So that's it for tip number 2. Let's get into tip number 3. Alright, tip number 3 is kind of just a very generic tip, but basically if you're scared of a card like Lightning Storm and also Cyber Dragon Infinity, try to summon your monsters in defense at all times. However, if they have 0 defense, try to reconsider in case you don't know what your opponent is playing, or if you think that he's playing Chaos Max. To be fair, there's almost nobody that's ever going to be playing Chaos Max, maybe only at your locals, but getting hit by Chaos Max or maybe Metal Foes Orichalc, that's another card that has double piercing. I actually did that at YCS, by the way. YCS that I topped. But anyways, in this situation, you should actually summon your monster in attack. And also another reason to summon your monsters in attack, in case they have high attack, is to prevent your opponent from summoning an Xyz monster that doesn't have an ability to attack directly or protect itself from destruction. For example, I don't know, again, in like the Burning Abyss example, if you have a monster with like 2600 attack, and their strongest Xyz monster would be a Dante that would get itself to 25. If you summon a monster in attack, well, they won't be able to attack and then main phase 2 make the Zeus underneath, unless they of course have the Seer and then revise back the Dante, but that's a completely different story. Anyways, this is the best way to play your cards depending on, again, the situation. But let's get into tip number 4 now. Alrighty, tip number 4 is kind of try to take advantage of the really weird and obscure continuous effects that your cards have, because sometimes they actually create brand new combos or can prevent prevent your opponent from applying pressure on you, or just allow you to break your opponent's board. So for example, here we have a Veilings with a Sanctuary and a Corruptor Ibli, which is basically a one-card combo, basically, since the Ibli can turn into Veilings, which searches you the Sanctuary, and then when the Ibli is sent to the graveyard, you summon it to your opponent's field. As long as it's there, your opponent cannot actually special summon except for link monsters, so the majority of the time people are going to be crashing the Ibli, or tribute summoning, or linking it up, like linking it off for something else, or find another way of getting rid of it. But if they're trying to crash on your Veilings, did you know that just with Ibli and nothing else, no Garnet, no nothing, well, I mean, Ibli is kind of like a Garnet, but not anymore. In this situation, you can actually protect yourself from your opponent crashing the Ibli on you, and that is with the continuous effect of Sanctuary, the one that nobody reads. So you can pay 1,000 life points, target one link monster you control, its attack becomes 0, and then you gain life points equal to its attack. So you're gonna gain 500, but most importantly, your Veilings becomes 0 attack. And in case you didn't know Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulings, any 2 attack position monsters that battle will always kind of self-destruct, except if they both have 0 attack. That is the only exception to the rule, and here at this point, both monsters, the Ibli and the Veilings, we both have 0 attack, so none of us are getting destroyed, meaning that my opponent wasn't able to get rid of his Ibli and consequently get rid of his lock, which is really huge. And also, the reason why I'm showing the Void Vanishment is because the majority of the time people are always going to be using the first effect in order to search for a Void Spell or Trap, specifically Void Imagination and Void Feast, sorry. But it also has another continuous effect where it says if an Infernoid monster you control battles an opponent's monster after damage calculation, you can send this card to the grave, banish those monsters. This is non-targeting, non-destructive removal, meaning that this card would be really good in order to apply pressure on your opponent's monsters like Dragoon, for example, that cannot be targeted or destroyed by artifacts. Absolutely fantastic. Now let's get into the 5th and final tip. Alright, this is not really like a tip, but kind of like a ruling that you should understand. Kind of serves as a tip at the end of the day because it helps you kind of play better and avoid making misplays, exactly just like I said at the very beginning of the video. It's improve your gameplay, increase your win rate, and avoid making dumb moves. So this is something that I don't even want to consider to be dumb, but I can definitely understand if people don't get it because it's kind of whack. Let's just say you have a 2400 attack Zodiac Xyz monster with 1 or multiple Whiptails. It doesn't have to be multiples, but let's just say you have at least 1. It could be Thorblade and Whiptail, and you're jumping over a Toad. What do you think will actually happen? Do you think our opponent could be using the effect of Toad in the damage step to negate the Whiptail, and then, you know, since it is the effect of the Xyz monster now, because it gains that effect, and it's a mandatory effect, you know, our monster is going to be destroyed, and then the Toad is not going to be banished because it's going to send itself for cost, etc. That could make so much sense, right? It would make so much sense, but the reason why it won't work like that, and it'll actually get banished, and the Toad won't have the ability to banish, is simply because of a ruling which says that monsters that are deemed losing a battle against another monster cannot use their monster effect in the damage step. This is pretty big, and it's going to be having a pretty huge impact just overall in the way you play, competitively speaking. And this is an interaction that came up in 2017 Zodiac format, which was just months and months long because people played Paleozoic a lot and people played Zodiac a lot. Obviously, I wonder why. So yeah, it's something that you have to keep in mind, and I have plenty more in stock, by the way. So if you guys are interested in more, definitely let me know with the comment section, with I guess your ideas, feedback, everything. And don't forget to like and subscribe because it really motivates me so much to keep making videos like these. I cannot stress that enough, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Peace.